Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, afternoon, or evening. Welcome to my Tax Advisor Show. My name is Weshira Joseph. I run a tax consulting firm called Career Tax Consultancy. And so today I want to walk you through the tax called installment tax. We want to see what is this animal called installment tax, who is eligible to pay installment tax, who is not, how do we calculate it, and what is the schedule of payment like? And then what are the penalties that are associated with non-compliance with this tax? And then I'm going to do a case study, a demonstration of how you can be able to determine what you should be paying in terms of installment taxes and when. And at the end, I give you my parting shots on the best compliance practices. Come along. Okay, great. Let's now dive into the nitty-gritties of installment tax. So what is installment tax? Installment tax is an estimated income tax that you pay to KRA at regular intervals. You can think of it as an advance tax that you pay before the year of income is over and before you do your books of accounts to establish the actual tax that is payable. So here's what happens. You give a deposit in terms of taxes. So you'll be depositing some money with KRA. This money is specified under the law how it should be computed. And then you're telling KRA, this is a deposit that I'm giving you. And then at the end of the year, once I've done my books of accounts and I know the actual amount of tax I'm supposed to pay you, then I'm gonna offset this deposit against my tax bill. So you can think of installment tax in a nutshell as a deposit or a credit that you're giving to KRA, and then you reuse it in future to offset your tax bill. All right. So who pays this installment tax? Installment tax is paid by both individuals and non-individuals. So for individuals, all categories, sole proprietors, consultant, professionals, independent contractors, trainers, and for non-natural persons, these are companies, limited partnerships, circles, clubs, societies, all these categories of people, they are supposed to pay installment tax. However, there's a category of taxpayer that is not eligible to pay installment tax. And you can think of them like employees. These are already paying pay as you earn. When we come to earners of income subject to final tax. So if you earn an income and that income by law is prohibited from further taxation, then you should not be subjecting yourself to installment taxes. And I'm talking about the people that pay turnover taxes, the businesses that pay turnover taxes, landlords that are under the monthly rental income category, and individuals who are earning interest income. So this category is subject to final tax. And then we have another category of exempted taxpayers, NGOs, persons with disabilities. They are not supposed to pay installment tax. So how do you calculate installment tax? So we are going to look at the two categories that we've seen. So you're going to look at the individual categories and then the companies or non-natural persons. So I'm just going to begin with individuals. Then we can see how they are taxed. All right. Now, mark this. Very important. If your annual tax liability exceed Kenya shillings 40,000, then you should pay your tax in installments. Think of it. Last year, how much taxes did you pay? If it was more than 40,000, then you need to take this seriously because you need to be paying your taxes going forward in installment taxes. And how is it calculated? This calculation is provided for by the law the Income Tax Act, Section 12, and it says, and Section 12.2 says, the amount of installment tax payable by any person for any current year of income shall be the lesser of A, the amount equal to the tax liability that would be payable by that person if his total income for the current year was an amount equal to his installment income. So this basically is talking about you do a projection and then you see the amount of tax that you'd have paid. B says the amount specified in the preceding year assessment multiplied by 110%. So the amount of tax you paid last year, which is the preceding year, then you multiply that by 110%. So in a nutshell, the summarization of that act is that you need to take the lesser of 1, the prior year tax, you multiply it by 110%, and then the current year projection or estimations, then you see which is lesser, and then you take the lesser one. All right, it might be confusing, don't worry. You're gonna do a case study and then you're gonna see how everything falls into place. Now, installment tax is paid in schedule. It has a schedule and installment. For individuals, you pay in 4 installments. All right, the first installment is paid by 20th April, second by 20th June, September, and December. And those installments are paid in equal, 25% in each installment. All right. So how do we calculate installment tax for individual? Let's dive in. So consider this taxpayer here. We are referring to the financial year 2021. This consultant made an income of 3 million. They had some expenses here, and those expenses were amounting to 1.5 million, and they made a profit of 1.4. And then this taxpayer paid taxes worth 342,000. We are assuming these are resident taxpayers, and so they qualify for personal relief. Consider also this scenario here. Let's assume this taxpayer has done projection for the year 2022. Remember, this is 2021. This is what they made in 2021. This is the tax bill that they actually paid. So in 2021, beginning of the year, they have done their estimations. They're estimating that they are going to make an income of 4.5 million. They're estimating that the expenses are going to remain the same. They're going to be 1.5 million. And they're estimating that they are going to make a profit, a taxable income of 2.9 million. And the tax on that amount is going to be that. And then they qualify for relief. And the final tax they estimate to pay is 792,000. So with those two scenarios, because the act said that you can look at the last year basis, multiply that by 110%, and then you also look at the current year, and then you see which tax is lesser. So first of all, let's see, if we grew this tax by 110%, how much would it be? All right, so that we can be able to compare with this one, we see which one is lesser. So let's just put it here. So this is going to be our computation area. So let's put it here and say this. All right, we grow it by 110%, right? And that is amounting to 376,000. So between 376,000 and 792,000, which is less? This one is less. So we are gonna go by this because that's what the law says. Remember this? All right. Okay. Now with that, let us now see how are we supposed to pay it throughout the year. Remember, it is paid in 4 equal installments of 25%. So there's gonna be 25%, all right, of this, right? And the first installment, which is 20th April, KRA expects us to send us 94,000. Then the second installment, or June 20th, they expect that, and by the end of the year they expect us to have paid a total of 376, which is exactly this one here, right? Now let's assume that at the end of the year we have done our books of accounts and we have assessed our actual income and our actual tax bill. So let's assume that the actual tax bill is amounting to, let's say, 500,000. All right, so let's assume that's what you're supposed to pay. Then, so how are we going to offset everything? So you're just gonna offset or less the installment taxes that we have already paid so far, and then if you qualify for relief, you can less it there. If you don't qualify, it's okay. And the balance of tax that KRA will be expecting from us is 94,000 shillings, because we have already paid 376 plus 94,000. It's gonna amount to these plus personal relief. It's gonna amount to this. So this balance of tax is now what KRA expect you to give it to them by 30th April. And mark this very well. Maybe you file your returns by June 30th. All right. If you are already paying installment tax, you need to submit your tax, your balance of tax, by April 30th. So in April, basically, you have two taxes that you need to sort. You need to sort the first one, which is installment tax, by 20th, and then you need to clear the balance of tax by April 30th. Quite confusing? I hope not. So what would happen if you don't pay installment taxes and you already qualify to be paying installment taxes? Again, we go back to the Act, and the Act says penalty on underpayment of installment taxes. And I want to read, this is section 52C, and I want to read one which says, subject to the 12th schedule, a penalty of 20% of the difference between the amount of installment tax payable in respect of a year of income as specified in section 12, and the installment tax actually paid multiplied by 110% shall be payable. Okay, let's assume that at the end of the year you have not paid any installment tax. So the law is saying that you qualify to be penalized 20% of the amount that you've not paid. So it's going to be 20% of this, and KRA will give you a penalty of 75,000. Quite a lot of money, right? So you can imagine now you'll be paying 500,000 tax for this year plus 75,000. All right. So far, so good. So we are done with the individuals. So let us now take a deep dive and look at installment taxes for company. But before we do that, if this is the sort of content that you would want to see, take a second and check that you've done a subscription. If not, subscribe. Just want to give you 5 seconds. Just make sure you subscribed, okay? All right. I hope you have. Let's proceed now. Now, calculation of company is still the same. You take the prior year basis, multiply by 110%, plus the budgeted income and the budgeted tax for the year, then you take the lesser of the two. Again, the payment schedule is the same for companies and for individuals. All right, so it's gonna be the first schedule, the second schedule, the fourth schedule, and so on and so forth. However, for companies have different accounting periods. Some end in December, some end in July, April, and so on and so forth. So depending on when the accounting period for the company is ending, you need to consider which is the 4th month, which is the 6th month, which is the 9th month, 12th month, and so forth, and then pay installment tax in the appropriate month. All right, so payments are done in equal installments, so still the same. Now there's a slight disconnect between agricultural companies and these other companies. So for agricultural companies, they have a preferential treatment, whereby they pay in 2 installments, and the first installment is paid by 20th of the 9th month, that is September, if your accounting period end in December, and then the second one is done by 12th month. But there's a disconnect in how you do the installments, so they're done in 75 and 25%. With that said, let us now look at a case study of how you would compute installment taxes for a company. Come along. Now consider this scenario. We have a hardware company that is making sales of 4 million in the year 2021, and their expenses were worth 2 million, and then they had some profit of 1.9 million, and they paid taxes worth 598,000. Now consider also a scenario whereby the company has done projection at the beginning of the year, and they are estimating that this year they're not going to make 4 million, they're going to make 5 million in sales. All right, and they're estimating that the expenses are just going to remain the same, 2 million, but the profit they're estimating to make is 2.9 million. All right, and they're estimating to make to pay a tax of 30%. Companies pay 30%, right? So 30% of this, which is gonna be 898,000. So again, we are gonna do our calculations here, and we say this is a projected tax, and then we have last year's tax. This is for 2022, and we want to see if we grew this by 110%, how much would it be, so that we can take the lesser. And we can do that by taking this here multiplied by 110%, right? And it's amounting to 658,000. So between 898 and 658,000, which is less? Definitely this is less, right? So you're gonna go by this, and we are gonna have it paid in 4 equal installments, unless it's an agricultural company, which is paid in 2 installments. And the first installment is just gonna be 25%, right, of this, right? So the first installment, KRA expect us to give out them 164, second the same, and for the same, and at the end of the day they expect us to have given them that much, right? So let's assume now the year has come to an end. You've done the actual books of accounts, and you've assessed the actual tax, and let's assume that the tax that you ought to have paid was 750,000. all right, how much would you be paying KRA as a balance of tax? You're just gonna have 70 minus the installment tax that you've already paid them, and you're just gonna pay them the balance of 91,000. The rule is the same. You're supposed to pay them this balance by 30th April of the next year. So like if we are in 2022, you need to give KRA this money by April 30th, 2023, not June 30th. Don't confuse those two. So again, for the company, in the month of April, you have two taxes to sort. First one is the first installment tax for 2023, and the other one is the actual tax, the balance of tax. So you need to sort those two. Same principle applies when it comes to penalties for not paying. So here you're gonna pay 20%. Assume that you don't pay anything, times this, and you'll be paying a penalty of 1,000. Quite huge, right? Because now it's gonna be this plus this one. All right. So finally, we are tackling the penalties for non-compliance with the installment taxes. So you'll be liable to pay penalties, and the first one is if you are late in paying, you pay your taxes after 20th, then you'll be liable to a 5% of the tax due and interest of 1% per month it's outstanding. And then if you underpay installment taxes or you pay nothing at all, then you'll be liable to a penalty of 20% of the difference between the amount of installment tax payable and the installment tax actually paid multiplied by 110%. So after this, folks, I now want to show you how you lodge the payment on itax. Come along. So just to clarify one or two points here, this is not a return that we are submitting, so we are not filing the return. We are making payment of installment tax. So you will not go to the return section, you'll go to the payment registration. All right. Then next, we head to the tax head. We are doing income tax, which is where then we are doing resident individual. Then we are doing the payment that we want to do is relating to installment tax. Okay, then once you do that, you select the year. So we want to pay installment tax for the year 2022. If you're watching this in 2025, you're gonna do 2025. All right. So installment tax prediction base. Remember the two things that we said: the current year prediction vis-a-vis the previous year. So previous year is what we are multiplying by 110%. The current year is your own prediction. All right. So let us look at the two. The first one is the current year. Why the okay, once you do the current year, it's gonna ask you what is the estimated tax value. You've done your assessment. How much did you see you're supposed to pay? Then assume our prediction is 100,000. All right, that's the tax that we estimate to pay. So we need to pay in the first installment by 20th April. We need to pay 25% of this, which is gonna be amount to be paid as 25,000. All right, and then after that you add it, and then it comes to the selected payment records, which is this one here, and then you can select how you want to pay it. Other payments, so that you can pay via M-Pesa and so forth. Then you can submit it here. All right, we are done with the first one. Okay, let us now assume that we want to do our prediction based on the previous year taxes. And once you highlight that, it's gonna pick for you I'll pull for you the previous year tax multiplied by 110%. And let's assume also that this was 100,000. All right, so you're gonna pay 25% of that in the first installment, and you know installments, that is gonna be 25,000, right? And then you can add it, and then it's just gonna appear here as 25,000, right? And then you can again check how you want to pay for it, and then you can submit right here. And that's how you submit, and that's how you pay installment taxes. So, and folks, we've come to the end of our tutorial. It's been long. It's one of those complicated areas. If you have any question for me, just keep it in the comment section. I'm gonna respond to as many questions as I can. And if you're in need of a tax consultant, do care to make me one. I work with clients whether you're in Kenya or outside. Everything that you need to comply with taxes can be done online. We have systems ready to make sure that we can exchange documents and we can be able to prepare your taxes on time and to serve you at your convenience. Till next time, my friends, keep safe. Joseph out.